It's now my great honor to introduce today's commencement speaker, Goodwin Liu, Associate Justice of the California Supreme Court. Prior to joining the court in 2011, Justice Liu was professor of law and former associate dean at the UC Berkeley Law School, perhaps you've heard of it, where he was recognized as an extraordinary teacher and scholar. His article, Education, Equality, and National Citizenship, won the 2007 Stephen S. Goldberg Award for Distinguished Scholarship in Education Law. And in 2009, he was awarded the UC Berkeley Distinguished Teaching Award, the university's highest teaching honor. He was elected to the American Law Institute in 2008 and to the ALI Council in 2013, where he served on the committee for the Young Scholars Medal. Justice Liu was born in Augusta, Georgia, the second son of Taiwanese immigrants, and grew up in Sacramento, California, where he attended public schools and graduated from Rio Americano High School. He earned a BS in biology from Stanford University and then attended Oxford University on a Rhodes Scholarship, earning master's degrees in philosophy and physiology. He graduated from Yale Law School in 1998 and clerked for U.S. Court of Appeals Judge David Tatel, and later for U.S. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. In 2001, he joined the law firm of O'Melveny and Myers in Washington, D.C. Now, in just a few short years on the California Supreme Court, Justice Liu has already made a name for himself as a remarkably thoughtful justice. We are tremendously honored to have him here with us today to help celebrate our graduates. So please join me in a warm welcome to Justice Goodwin Liu.
Dean Mnookin, Speaker Perez, esteemed faculty, honored guests, parents, family, friends, and most especially the UCLA Law School class of 2016. You ever drive down the freeway and or open up a magazine and you see those advertisements that says, shot on iPhone 6? All right, I've given a lot of commencement speeches. There's something I've always wanted to do. Okay, so now you're gonna see yourself on one of those billboards, shot on iPhone 6. Your check is in the mail. Man, it's a beautiful day here. It's unbelievable that you guys can get anything done. It struck me, sitting up here, looking at this tableau, that your parents and your friends and family are sitting out there in the sun, and you're sitting here in the shade. And isn't that kind of a metaphor for what they've done for you? That they've done everything they can to sacrifice so that you could get to this day today. They toiled in the sun, they worked in the sun, they sat in the sun so you could sit in the shade. So I would like all the graduates to rise, turn and face your audience, and give them a rousing hand applause of gratitude for all they've done to enable you to sit in the shade today. To the graduates, you can sit. To the graduates, well, it wasn't that long ago when I was sitting in your shoes, and I can imagine some of the things that you're thinking about in your minds right now. What should I do with my life? How will I define success? Remind me again why all this debt was a good idea. Well, your dean told you a little bit about what I've done since law school, and I have no doubt that many accomplishments are also on the horizon for all of you. But as is customary for commencement speaker, I have to tell you about the other side of life's journey as well, the failures, the disappointments, and what I learned from them. Let's start with the very first time I spoke in front of a podium. It was 1977. I was 6 years old. Back then, I lived in Florida in a small farming town in Hendry County called Clewiston. Population, what? Population 5,000 at the time. Population 4,999, apparently. We had moved to this very small town after my parents had immigrated to America from Taiwan. And my parents had, luckily, very good educations, but my brother and I didn't learn to speak English until kindergarten because my parents worried that we would acquire an accent if they had taught us at home. So I was pretty pleased with myself that at 6 years old, I made it onto my school spelling bee team. And our team was headed to the regional spelling bee in Belle Glade, which is 30 minutes east of Clewiston. Now, going to Belle Glade was like going to the big city. It was in Palm Beach County, and it had a population of 15,000 people. That's like, how many people go to a Bruins basketball game. Now, important fact is that my parents, despite their English, were very aggressive about education. So they had skipped me from kindergarten to the 3rd grade, which explains some things, I suppose. Which was fine, except that I was kind of small relative to my classmates. So we get to Belle Glade, and all the kids are here on the stage like this, and there's a podium in the middle like this. And one by one, each kid goes up when his or her number is called, and we do the practice round. And when it's my turn, I go to the podium. And before I say anything, there's a ripple of laughter through the audience. And I realize that compared to the other kids, I am so short that no one in the audience can see me behind the podium. And I'm so unnerved by this that I flub the practice word and I go back to my seat. And then we start the official round, first round. And as my turn gets closer and closer, I'm sitting there getting more and more nervous. And when my number is called, I go to the podium, giggles and laughter again. And the announcer asks me to spell the word bamboo. So I start into the word, B-A-M, and then I become totally petrified. And I pause for like 30 seconds, which is an eternity. And then I break the silence by saying, B-U-E. Bamboo. Bamboo is a little-known perennial, somewhat shorter and less fast-growing than its taller cousin, bamboo. Okay, obviously that was a case of nerves. I mean, what kind of Asian doesn't know how to spell bamboo? Now, you may wonder why I'm telling you this story. What did I learn from this experience? Basically nothing, except that when you do any public speaking, make sure you're taller than the podium. Now, apart from the spelling bee, I had a happy childhood. Though as a child of immigrants, I tried very hard to fit into the mainstream. My parents didn't really understand that the role of sports in American socialization. But I was very determined to play sports, and in particular, basketball, which is, of course, ironic in light of the spelling bee incident. I was short, but I was reasonably agile and coordinated. I practiced every day in middle school. I ate red meat. I watched tapes of Spud Webb. You guys don't even know who Spud Webb is. And when I started high school, and by then I was living in Sacramento, my crowning achievement was making the cut as the 15th man on my high school's 15-man freshman basketball team. As with the spelling bee, this is before the days of Jeremy Lin, you understand. As with the spelling bee, I was pretty proud of myself for making the team, but I didn't realize that there's a big difference between making the team and actually getting to play any basketball. Right? So, as the third string guard, I excelled at warming the bench. Occasionally, the coach would take pity on me and put me in for the last few minutes of a game whose fate was already sealed. I remember I scored no points until the very last game of the season, where we were ahead by double digits, and the coach put me in with like 5 minutes left. And I had the ball on a fast break, and I got fouled going to the basket with a couple minutes left on the clock. And I went to the free throw line to shoot 1-on-1. And it was my first time at the free throw line all season, and my last chance, I realized, to score. And miraculously, I made both of them. Yeah. But the thrill was short-lived, because I still remember the stat sheet that was handed out at our team banquet some weeks later, showing that my 2 points over the course of the 20-game season gave me a season average of 0.1 points per game. So, what did I learn from that experience? I learned that with hard work and perseverance, you too can learn to do fractions and decimals. Actually, though, when you think about it, although I made the fewest points per game, my 2 for 2 from the free throw line gave me the highest free throw percentage ever. The truth is that I've had very many other disappointments besides my failed basketball career. Another example is when I studied at Oxford after college. You know, I went there actually to do a PhD in molecular biology. In college, I was a biology major. And at the time, I was planning to go to medical school. Lucky for me, by the way, I have an older brother who became a surgeon. So, as one Asian American once told me, it's good that not both of you turned out to be complete disappointments. That's a little Asian humor for you. Just ask someone close to you if you didn't get that. When I got to Oxford, I realized I had no patience for the lab research. So after a couple months, I quit the PhD and I switched to an undergraduate program in philosophy. This in of itself was a bit of a come down because I had just finished college and there I was with a bunch of 17-year-olds pursuing another bachelor's degree. But I took it in stride, I worked hard, and after 2 years, I sat for the final exams. Now, at Oxford, you take these exams wearing a black gown like this and a white bow tie, and this uniform is called sub-fusk. Sub-fusk is a tradition with a long history, won't go into it now, but if you pass the exams, you get a degree with a single cumulative grade. Can you imagine that? A single cumulative grade for everything. And either it's a first, a second, or a third class honors. That's what it's called, a first, second, or third. And then the second is subdivided into upper second class, which is called a 2-1, and then the lower second class, which is called a 2-2. Okay. Of course, type A person that I am, I was determined to get a first. I read, I wrote, I studied, I memorized, and I studied more. But when all was said and done, the verdict on my exams was a 2-1. Second class honors, upper division. That's a fancy way of saying, I got a B. Maybe a B plus, but it's a B. I was quite disappointed. And when I got the news, my first thought was not sub-fusk, but something linguistically similar. What did I learn from that experience? Well, the truth is that studying philosophy at Oxford challenged me in ways I hadn't been challenged before. So it's not surprising that I didn't get a first, the high grade, but I really enjoyed reading for the first time, and I really enjoyed ideas for the first time, and I read more, wrote more, with more intensity than I'd ever done before. So I didn't get the A, but I developed more intellectual confidence and curiosity in those 2 years than in all my years of education up to that point. Now, speaking of exams, How many of you are going to take the bar exam this summer? Yeah? I feel bad for you. The last class to take the 3-day bar exam. Okay, well, let me tell you a story that's going to make you feel a little bit better. When I graduated from law school, Yale Law School in 1998, I emerged from that school not knowing a lot of black-letter law. You know that Yale has this reputation for legal theory and policy, but not for black-letter law. Many of my classmates, I'm pretty sure, got their diplomas still guessing how many elements there are to a tort. So when it came time for me to take the California bar, I did the usual thing. I took a bar review course. For the first few weeks, I thought things were going pretty well. I actually enjoyed the bar review lectures because they made the law seem so clear, so lucid. And that summer, I was working during the day, so I didn't have time to study outside of the evening classes, but that was okay because the material seemed very manageable. Well, just before the July 4th holiday, you'll find this out, the review course gives you a practice multi-state exam covering, the subjects, torts, property, all the rest, evidence. And this practice test is taken nationwide, and your score for each subject is reported as a percentile rank, so you know roughly where you stand compared to everyone else and how much more you have to study. Okay. Well, I took the practice test, had a nice July 4th weekend, and I got my scores. In con law, which is sort of like the Yale specialty, I was above the 70th percentile. Yippee, not bad. But in the common law subjects, the stuff that state Supreme Court justices have to deal with, I did not make the 70th percentile. I did not make the 50th percentile. I did not make the 25th percentile. No, ladies and gentlemen, in contracts, I will never forget this. My scorecard said 3. Yes, 3. Now, as you will recall, 3 is an unimpressive score on the 5-point high school AP exam. My 3 meant that I was in the 3rd percentile nationally. 3 out of 100. 97% of people did better than me, which meant not only did I not know any contracts, but I was very determined to prove that fact. And it was much the same story, actually, for evidence, torts, property, where my scores were all in the low teens or low 20s. And so that July was the least fun I had had in a very long time. But I did get my act together, and I did pass the bar exam. So, what is the lesson of that story? The lesson is that if you graduate from law school knowing almost nothing about black-letter law, not only can you still pass the bar exam, you too can become a justice of the California Supreme Court. Let me share with you one final story. Small setbacks like these are part of life. But some years ago, I had a rather significant and public failure. Some of you may know that I was nominated by President Obama to serve on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. And if being nominated by the President of the United States to serve as an appellate judge is a major high, then having your nomination filibustered by the United States Senate is certainly one of the major lows. Most of my career up to that point had been in academia, and I had a paper trail that was, shall we say, a very target-rich environment. I had written extensively on school desegregation. I had supported some forms of school vouchers and charter schools. I had supported policies to promote equal opportunity for poor people and minorities. I had published an article on social welfare rights. I had supported affirmative action. I had supported same-sex marriage. Those were views I had taken as a scholar. And I can tell you that the job of a judge is very different. But that argument was not very persuasive to my critics. So what is the lesson here? Is it that law students and young lawyers should be careful. Careful about taking a position, careful about committing to a client or a cause for fear of losing some future opportunity? Well, let me tell you, I have certainly said things and written things that I later regretted. I have made mistakes I wish I could erase. Who hasn't? But it would be wrong to conclude that the best way to go about life is to always play it safe. As a friend of mine once said, no one goes to his grave seeking an epitaph that reads, "He kept his options open." Not only would that be wrong, it would be a betrayal of the great gifts of talent and education that you've been given. All of you have demonstrated great intelligence, motivation, savvy, and grit. And for accomplished people like yourselves, my worry really is not that you won't succeed. It's that you will never fail. It's that you will live successful, comfortable lives while never leaving your comfort zones, never taking risks that could lead to disappointment or failure. Now, let's be honest. Failure is not fun. So why not play it safe? Well, think about it this way. On the downside, most failures in life are not catastrophic. You might experience pain, you might be embarrassed, you might lose some money, you might lose a job or not get one that you wanted, but you will still have your education. You will still have your friends and family, and, absent unethical conduct, you will still have your good name. And for the most part, you will still have a comfortable life, at least after you pay back your student loans. On the other side of the ledger, failure has many possible upsides. Sometimes it means you're pushing the boundaries, like the 6-year-old at the spelling bee, or the high school freshman with the perfect free throw percentage. Sometimes failure means you're challenging yourself to do something you didn't know you could do, like read philosophy. Sometimes failure makes you work harder, like when you're studying for the bar exam. And sometimes failure is a gateway to new opportunities, like failing to get one judgeship and then, unexpectedly, getting another. The importance of your choices goes far beyond these personal consequences. We live in a world with big challenges: climate change, water policy, economic mobility, criminal justice reform. Like it or not, these problems will be your life's work. You have a longer future on this planet than those of us who are a little or a lot older than you. The solutions to these challenges are uncertain, but one thing is for sure. No progress will be made unless people with great talent, education, and leadership, unless people like you step up, take some risks, and do not fear failure. So as you sit here today, in this very fine place, think back a few years to when you were applying to law school. What was your answer to why you wanted to become a lawyer? Was it to get rich? To have a big office? Or to help keep the world as it is? Or was it to serve humanity? To speak for those who can't speak for themselves? To provide opportunity for the poor or the powerless, or to make the world, in some way, more just and free? I know you came to this place with hopes and dreams. And my one piece of advice is that you print a copy of your law school essay and keep it in the top drawer of your desk throughout your career, no matter where you work, no matter what you do, and let it be a reminder of the person you once were and the person you want to be. And don't be afraid to take some risks. Don't let your hopes and dreams forever be just hopes and dreams. Congratulations, class of 2006. Good luck.
Thank you, Justice Liu. As a token of appreciation, the class of 2016 would like to present you with a UCLA Law sweatshirt.
That's great. All right.
Thank you so much.
I'll be glad to wear this in Berkeley.
Now, please welcome our JD class speaker, Arielle Spinner.
Good afternoon, graduates, faculty, family, and friends. Now, family and friends, I want to say something to you first. The degrees that we receive today are just as much yours as they are ours because, let's be real, perfecting the art of putting up with us during LSAT studying, law school applications, and then actual law school itself, especially through finals and job interviews, is worthy of its own degree. And now you'll support us while we study for the bar exam, to which I say thank you, good luck, and I am so sorry. Now to address my classmates. For the past 3 years, I have been inspired, motivated, and incredibly intimidated by you. I distinctly remember sitting in Royce Hall for the convocation ceremony at the end of our week-long first-year orientation, listening to the dean read off some of your accomplishments. I was stunned to hear that I was sitting amongst published authors, world-class athletes, actors, inventors, probably rulers of small countries. I was sitting in a room full of superstars, and I could not have been more overwhelmed. I was here at UCLA Law because I had majored in something impractical and wanted a legitimate reason to wear a pantsuit. So how am I standing here today as a lawyer just 3 years later? Well, I gave it some thought and narrowed down a few pivotal moments that marked my progression from a normal person to a law student and finally to a lawyer. August 15th, 2013, learn that it depends is an acceptable answer to any legal question. August 20th, 2013, broke into a nervous sweat when cold called in class for the first time. October 15th, 2013, learn that the bane of every 1L's existence can be summarized in a single word, memo. December 2013, wondered if I would be liable for negligence if someone accidentally tripped over my computer cord in the library. I still don't know the answer to that, by the way. Spring break 2014. Realized that constitutional law jokes are only funny to other law students, and if I wanted to keep the friends in the other areas of my life, I should save that material for law school. Summer 2014. Legal internships are challenging, stressful, substantive, and incredibly rewarding. Used my newfound legal reasoning and writing skills to positively impact people's lives. Realized that this is why I went to law school. Fall 2014, laughed at anyone in a non-law field who complained about being busy. Realized I was being incredibly annoying. Spring 2015, opened one of those chain emails from my dad called Ridiculous Legal Cases, which briefly summarized some recent decisions by judges that sounded absurd. I couldn't just be entertained by the email, of course. I had to write my dad back and say, there's just not enough information here. Some of the legal standards in these types of cases involve multi-factor tests, and these summaries just don't tell me how the judges weighed those factors. Again, realized I was being incredibly annoying. Fall 2015, purchased moral character from the American Bar Association for $500. And now, spring 2016, graduating with a JD. We all came to UCLA Law for different reasons. Some of us had very specific ideas about the types of law we wanted to practice. Others of us wanted to get law degrees to help us get ahead in business, engineering, or other fields. Most of us like to hear the sound of our own voices. All of us voluntarily took on the responsibility of interpreting, protecting, and shaping the law. A few weeks ago, I had to watch an online tax seminar for work and was vacillating between falling asleep and eating donut holes when suddenly the speaker caught my attention. While he was explaining some tax concept that I guess I'll never know, he had referred to lawyers as being leaders in social thought. And it's true. That's exactly who we've become, who we now are. Through our work at nonprofits, government agencies, firms, think tanks, private companies, and really anywhere else that will have us, we will shape how society views the most contentious issues of our generation. Each of us could have done anything after undergrad, chosen any path, and yet we all chose to become lawyers. We chose to spend 3 years of our lives learning to read critically, to see all sides of every argument, to write logically yet persuasively, to think on our feet, to smuggle food into the library. We've participated in moot court and mock trial. We've written for and edited law journals. We've externed for judges and agencies. We've volunteered at legal nonprofits. We've put on conferences. We've researched for law professors. We've advocated for those who can't advocate for themselves. And ultimately, we found our place in this world. We're not here today because we just so happened to answer the phone when Dean Schwartz called us 3 years ago to tell us we'd been admitted. We're here because we chose to be leaders in social thought. We saw what is both beautiful and flawed about the law, its malleability. There's a very famous quote that we've all heard a million times by now. The Constitution means whatever judges say it means. The law adapts to the times, to what each generation finds to be socially acceptable. And as we all know, historically, this hasn't always been such a great thing. It's up to us as lawyers to ensure that the law not only adapts to the times, but that it does so in a way that is moral, practical, and just. Civil rights didn't just happen. Marriage equality didn't just happen. Lawyers made them happen. We, as lawyers and even future judges, will determine how laws will be read. We will determine how they impact the public on a daily basis. We will be the people that our clients look to for guidance in some of the most challenging moments of their lives, and the people that they celebrate with in their most rewarding moments. And we, as UCLA law graduates, are undeniably qualified to shoulder that responsibility. Thank you all for being my classmates, my colleagues, and most importantly, my friends for the past 3 years. I look forward to sharing really, really terrible legal puns with you all for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Arielle.